Hello and welcome. Nice to see you back. And we appreciate you being here so very, very much. And we are going tonight, to cover about a third of the acceptations. There are 31 that I flesh out in the book, and we'll probably do the first third tonight. And remember, the whole idea of You Are God's Best Idea, divine acceptations and living the undeniable life, is rooted in the acceptance of the spiritual truth that you are divine right here and right now. That is a divine acceptation which raises your awareness and consciousness. Enlightenment means that you are aware that you are the answer to your own prayer. And through your inherent inner divinity, you can do anything and be open to all the good because you will no longer be operating from fear and doubt. Have we done that in the past from time to time? Operated from fear or doubt? Life will be simply undeniable, and there is no place for fear and doubt in the undeniable. You accept you are divine and important, needed and necessary, loved in the beloved. You are God's best idea. Now, the divine acceptations are actually the divine ideas that we covered last week, and I'll just mention them very quickly as a setup for tonight's session. You are God's best idea. You are of and from God. Okay? God is love. So if you're from God, you must be love. You are a divine expression of love, and your reason for being is to express love. And life goes better with love. We have what is called inherent divinity. That means God isn't out there. God is right here. You are inside what is inside you. And God is all there is. It's all God. And there's one power behind all that is. I know it seems like there's conflicting powers, but there's not. There's something called force. And we saw that on display this week with what happened with Gaddafi in Libya. Here's a man who led and ruled with and through force for 40 years. Well, if you saw the film of him begging and pleading for his life after ruling these people for 40 years in a very ruthless way, you can see where force ultimately ends. It ended badly for Hitler. It ended badly for Saddam Hussein. Where there is force, there is a counterforce. And eventually, it catches up with you. But if you live and operate with and through love, with and through God, things go so much better. There is just now the eternal now, which means that you were extended an invitation to return to love a long time ago, and that invitation has never been rescinded and never will be rescinded. So never feel as if you have missed the opportunity to where you began with a higher consciousness and from love. Some people kind of give up after a while. They go, well, I'm 50 years old now. I'm 60 or 70, and it's too late for me. It is never too late. Everything is perfect in its own way. That perfection isn't always obvious, but in time usually becomes clear. There is abundance, no lack of it, and you have access to it. And of course, the law of attraction, the great law of cause and effect. I say life is a gift exchange. As you give your gifts, gifts are given to you. And it isn't necessarily one-to-one. The gift I give to Lorna may come back to me from Sandy. And then the last one, which is why the book is called Divine Acceptations and Living the Undeniable Life, is you need to accept this. Most self-improvement books and programs don't work because people don't accept it. They kind of like it. They kind of mull it around in their head, but they don't embody it wholeheartedly. But if you do, then the magic happens and the wheels begin to turn. And once you let the universe know that you're serious about being used as an instrument of love you will have all the opportunities to do just that. So, part 2, the divine acceptations. Let's start with you. And again, some of this is going to sound very familiar, but it's important to get steeped in this as much as possible. And by the way, if you're new to me, what I do is I write epigrams. That's how all of this began, writing epigrams on Twitter and in my classes. And then after about a year of that, people asked me, Doug, what are you going to do with all this material? And I thought about writing songs and poetry, and I did a little bit of that. But what eventually happened was this book. And one of the ones I wrote in regards to us is "The stage is set, reputation proceeding, summoning the star and the seated spectator. A performance at your command. Heaven's ovation standing, God's cause for applause." You are the cause for applause. And you can stand up and get on that stage and begin anytime you want. Be you too full. Be you too full. Beautiful. Don't let anyone anchored in ignorance suggest that you are anything other than perfectly divine. Imagine every child starting his or her life with the premise told by loving parents that they are God's best idea. So imagine every child starting his or her life with the premise told by loving parents that they are God's best idea. It should be a requirement. And if I have anything to say about it, it will become one. Almost everything negative that a person does is because they do not believe they are good or worthy. They meet the lowered expectations of the ignorant. I know that's a pretty powerful word. And maybe if I would rewrite this, I would use a little softer touch there. But that was the case. Her parents did what they knew to do. In many ways, they didn't know better than what they did. Could have, should have, maybe. But we won't hold them. We won't hold them hostage for the mistakes that were made, because I really do believe that my parents did the best that they could, and they did a pretty good job. Because after all, I'm here today, right? Imagine if you knew you were unlimited, knew you had the power to realize any and every dream. Well, now you do. But the important thing to know is why this is so. And also, once you know, you do have responsibility. But we'll get to that later. You can't get outside of what is inherently inside you. Do you feel God, or whatever word you use for God, is with you right now? Did you always know that? Or did you always feel that? Okay. But you do now. I think I inherently knew it. I just didn't know what I knew or thought I knew. It can get very confusing. But I just know whenever I heard things that didn't make sense, things about punishment and darkness and hellfire and brimstone, I just knew that wasn't a God that I even wanted to know, let alone knew, inherently so. There may not be a more important thing in this book than what I am about to reveal. This, and I've never heard this idea before, I believe it is so. And you don't have to believe it's so. It's okay if you don't. But I really believe this is the God's honest truth. No pun intended. What we adore, we surrender to. What we adore, we surrender to. Now, that in good and bad ways. I mean, if you love some things that aren't so good for you, they can really mess you up. But in a good way, what we adore, we surrender to. Most parents put their children at the center of their lives. We certainly did with our son. They surrender to them. In other words, not as many vacations, not as many, things change. They really do change a lot. They did in our household. Well, God adores you. You've heard that, right? God adores you. So let's take 2, you surrender what you adore, and 2, God adores you. I put that together and came up with this. God has surrendered to you. Now, a lot of people say, You need to surrender. You need to surrender. And I understand what they're saying. But understand that God has surrendered to you. In other words, he didn't, or it or she didn't make you in order for you to be lost. That wasn't the idea. God has invested in you because you are from and of it. So you are not lost, ever. God has surrendered to you. That means that God is with you, and you don't have to go searching for it. The answer is within. Blessed is the person who recognizes and embraces the divine that is within. This is directly from the Bible. 1 John 4:7. Dear friends, let us love another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Sounds like something Ernest Holmes would write. But this is in the Bible. And there's no caveats here. I mean, this isn't taken out of context. It says, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves, and we all have loved and love, has been born of God. So you know God, and God knows you. Case closed. You cannot be lost. Not a single human who has ever lived did not love, has not loved. A baby is nothing but love. We all began as babes, adored by God, because we are from God. From the start, you are adored, and your well-being matters. It's okay to have a high opinion of yourself. God does. I saw the eyes roll there. Here's the deal. Don't do that. Because, you know, when you're watching your son or daughter play sports or do the ballerina stuff, you're going, wow, this is fantastic, regardless of how well they do. Well, don't you think God is looking at us through our eyes and doing the same thing? Not to say that occasionally God doesn't go, that's okay. But he doesn't, or she, or it doesn't love you any less, even when we make our mistakes. There is nobody between you and God, no one you have to please or appease. You are fine just the way you are because God made you that way. Now, if you want to behave differently or make an improvement of some kind, go right ahead. But know that you are inherently divine, and no pennant, ribbon, or trophy makes you better than you already are in spirit. I always wanted trophies. I think I had one trophy. And some of my friends had more trophies. And I looked at that as being they were better. But they weren't. And we have other kinds of trophies as adults, cars and houses and salaries. But those are just things. They're not what you are inherently. I think sometimes that we are overwhelmed by the possibilities and opportunities that exist and that are continuously unfolding before us. Lorna, I know. I've heard you say that. What is my purpose? What am I going to do? What do I want to do now? Or what do I want to do next? I don't know. Because there are so many opportunities. Don't let that overwhelm you. Just be the love that you are, and you will find outlets for that expression. I know you have, haven't you? Excellent. So if the eagle is just as magnificent sitting on a branch as it is flying in the air, then you are just as divine making $1 million or sitting in a chair. I like the rhyme words. You are neither called nor summoned to greatness. You were sent to express your inherent greatness. You haven't been called to do some kind of great thing. You inherently are great, and then you just need to be who you are and what you are. And from there, you will do great things and are doing great things. How are you using your inheritance? Until you fully embody your inherent worthiness, you will fall short of your glorious birthright. Now, how do you do that? As we said 3 times already, just be the love that you are. The answer is always within. By the time you are finished with this book and this seminar, you will know how amazing you are because I am going to keep telling you. I'm going to keep telling you. The Bible describes you as a God and a child of the Most High. Everyone remember that verse? Ye are gods and children of the Most High. So love the one with a capital O you're with as the one with the capital O within loves you. There is nothing the one of you can't do together. The power is God's. The law in which the power works is God's. You use it for good and with love. And for me, I loved Karen Carpenter. What a voice. Incredible. No one ever sounded like her before. And no one has since. If you've heard the voice of Karen Carpenter, you know God is. And we all have a song in our heart, and we are the only one who can sing it. Some people dance only when their favorite song is playing, sitting out and missing all the other opportunities to trip the light. Fantastic. Do we pass on those opportunities sometimes? Do we get invitations, literally or figuratively, to dance? And we go, oh, not today. Maybe next time. There's always going to be more opportunities, but you never know how much power, how much opportunity is in a given opportunity. Again, I believe that, like that, those little rubber duckies that are always going around at the carnival, and you get to pick out a little ducky. They keep going around. You keep getting to pick the ducks. They don't stop going around. There's prizes for everyone. But be cognizant of when you get an invitation. It may be the invitation you were asking and wanting. And if you say, oh, no, not this week, maybe next week, think about it before you pass. You're really not at the party if you don't get on the dance floor. It is time to get up and boogie. Dance with the divine. Play that funky music. I used to work with the guy that wrote Play That Funky Music. And that's in the book in a later chapter. You were made for dancing or whatever it is you desire, because that desire is God asking for divine expression through you when you accept your inner divinity and live the undeniable life. This is really important to understand, that you are the instrument, as St. Francis of Assisi says. We are the instrument, and that love and that expression is coming through us, and we're either kind of pinching it off, and when we pinch it off, what does it sound like? We hit flat notes, don't we? Or we sound like a kazoo instead of a beautiful violin or a trumpet. Now, it was at this particular point in this particular chapter where I shared my story of my weight management issues that I've had since I was 7 or 8 years old. Lost a lot of weight between 2003, 2006, gained a lot of it back, most of it back. And basically, even though I had forced that weight off, literally, I was running 9 miles a day. Can you imagine me running from here to that door now? Probably not so much. But that's how obsessed I was with my weight loss. But I was forcing it off. I wasn't allowing it to leave, on its own accord. And as you know, whatever you try to force, there's a counter force. I wasn't using the power of love for that weight reduction. It was a force of will, and it kind of it fought back. And so God doesn't love me any less or more, whether I'm 200 or 400 pounds, and that goes for all of us. And your issue may not be weight, it may be something else, but understand that whatever you're struggling with, don't let that issue be the measurement of how much you are loved and adored. Your dreams and goals should be about expressing your inner divinity, not generating a fleeting glimpse of so-called happiness. Just like with all manifestations of abundance, it is inner happiness, peace, and joy that lead to outer forms. In my particular case, as I fully express the inner peace, joy, and happiness that I embody now, that weight will leave in time. Or it might not. Because, I'm kind of happy. That Buddha that you see at the Chinese restaurants, he looks pretty happy. And Santa Claus looks pretty happy too. So it may be that I will be like this, and that will be okay if I'm getting to do things like this, which is spread the message of inherent divinity. But I do desire health and happiness. And it will be as my divinity desires, because your desires don't determine your divinity determines your desires. So if you accept that you are God's best idea, you will live the undeniable life, no matter what your weight is or what your income is. God doesn't ask that you be perfect, only to be perfectly you, and therein lies the perfection. The second chapter in the Acceptations was about the divine, which of course is God. And we say that everywhere there is a where and a here, a then and a now, a what and a how, God is. Doesn't mean God is making these things happen, but God is there when they do. The good and the things that we perceive as not so good. A faith that takes more than an embrace to express is not a self-evident truth, but a synthetic supposition. What does that mean? It means my book is 81,000 words long, but I can express it in an embrace. What do you believe, Doug? I can embrace you, and you don't have to read the book. In any religion that needs much more than that to explain, probably should do a little editing. Because God is love, and love is God, and that's what we are, and that's what we're here to do. Pretty simple. A lot of the rest of it is just conjecture, hypothesis. We have covered this truth in previous chapters. God is love. Love is integrity, whole, entire, and undiminished. God is never approaching or receding, ascending or descending. God is where you are, right where you are. Yes, God is in the whole of the universe. And yet this divinity beats in your heart. The changeless is forever changing in order to reveal what it has always been. So this might mean that you see God in the sunrise. For others, it might be the sunset. Some in the mountain, others the green valley. Some it might be the ocean. For others, of course, we live in what is known as a high desert. I love the way it looks here at night. My son loves the electric guitar. That's where he finds God. How and what you accept and what you want to embrace in terms of the expressions of divinity change. I mean, I used to like certain kinds of music. I don't care as much anymore, and vice versa. There's music that I didn't used to like that I like more now. Same thing with movies. What you turn to turns to you. We're gonna. This is a little exercise here. We're a little kind of far apart here, so you might have to move to do this. But turn to a friend or a stranger. In either case, God turns to you. No one person can find God for us, but you will find God in every one of us. The thing we look with is the thing we're looking for. Is God watching? Everywhere we look. Take a look around. Everybody look around. See the divinity that is clearly present. I'll let you decide where you see it clearly present. And then look closer for the divinity that is not as obvious, but just as magnificent. Maybe it's in the stained glass windows that, whoever did that did an amazing job. Maybe it's in the architecture. Maybe it's in the fact that we're recording this on a computer. And, what goes into that to create this microphone and the flower that's over there, or the gourds that are on the floor, or the picture drawn by the children over there. Maybe it's in the words that you're hearing. Put your hand on the heart or shoulder of somebody near you. Touch somebody's hand. It beats right there, the heart of divinity as it beats in you. Do we agree? When you pray, you are not asking God to change the natural law and order of things, only to reveal spirit reality. In the next book, I'm going to go into more of that. On my blog at dougshares.blogspot.com, I go into, there's a very long essay on a powerful way to pray. I know that we unify with God. We say God is all there is, and I am one with God. And then we state in the present, in an affirmative way, what it is that we believe is so. And then we express thankfulness and gratefulness for that. And then we release it into the law of action, and we say, and so it is. This book, I can tell you, and Sandy can tell you, how many times did we have this prayed for? for an entire year. Every week it was, when it came time, what is Doug going to pray for this week? What are we going to pray with Doug for, or know for Doug about? It was the completion and the publication of the book. And it is. That's what it's about. The power of prayer. The concept is that God is perfect, whole, and complete, and from perfection must come only more perfection. That's so important, because if you get caught up in appearances, if you get caught up in what about that, and what about this, and where is God in that? If you do that, you're going to unravel. You're going to unravel, and you're going to fall apart. And we've seen it. We've seen people unravel to the point where they can hardly get out of bed. What do they call that? It's a certain kind of phobia. Yeah, where they literally can't get out of bed. I knew a person that way. She was beautiful. I mean, she was a former homecoming queen. Tall, smart, talented. She worked for me part-time at a radio station. And there would be times when she could barely get into work. And she would tell me that she hadn't gotten out of bed all week long. But the one thing she could get out of bed for was to do her shift at the radio station, because that's what she loved. Because by being on the radio, she felt like she was somebody. And frankly, I became a radio personality because I wanted to be somebody. But we are somebody from the beginning. That's what it's all about. If you know you're somebody now, then you can do anything you want or go anywhere you want. But if you try to go somewhere to be something, it tends to unravel. Just like if we've talked about this before too. If you want to be rich and you buy a lottery ticket, and you win, which is unlikely, but if you do, and you don't have an abundant consciousness, you will lose that money very, very fast. It almost always happens. I wouldn't mind trying it. I would like to see how I would do. But understand that you are everything you need to be right now. With that information, you can go about doing anything you want to do. Our natural state of being is wellness, so your prayer, and when we're talking about prayer, is to simply ask for spirit reality to be revealed, and spirit all is well, and we'll cover that more in the divine healing chapter. I think that's next week. Again, God is love, and love asks us to return to God. Every action or reaction must be measured by love. Is this the loving thing to do? You'll find the divine answers to your questions therein when you accept your divinity and live the undeniable life. So if you want more love, if I were to ask that question, this is kind of tricky because you may go in a different direction. If you want more love, I say be more you. And why do I say that? If you are love and you are from love, then if you want more love, be more you. Make sense? All right. Divine promise. I like to say you don't have promise, you don't have a purpose, you don't even necessarily need to have a plan. I believe that you are the plan, you are the purpose, you are the promise. Otherwise, why would we be here? If you believe life is random with no purpose, what you'll manifest is purposeful randomness. In the 90s, that's the way it was for me. I was going, wow, I've got a wife, I've got the kid, I'm making plenty of money, but I wasn't very happy. I wasn't very happy. Because I wasn't living purpose. I wasn't living love. It was like, oh, wow, I got a bonus. Oh, wow, I got an award. Oh, wow, we got great ratings. Oh, wow. But it wasn't what I was being. I was going for awards and pats on the back and getting them, but I wasn't living with and through and as love. So it was kind of empty when it was all said and done. The pointed palisade parts when presented with a prodigious purpose. I always think of like a Disney cartoon, maybe Shrek, and it's like we're royalty and we're love and we're powerful and we're walking up to the castle and the trumpets blare and the drawbridge comes down. The people are cheering because they're welcoming what everyone wants most, and that's love. You see what you believe, and I see utter perfection. I see perfect purpose. The internet, which is where, again, I was able to publish my Twitters, my tweets, and Facebook are instant publishers. So if you've got something to express, there's an avenue to do it. In fact, one of our friends at the center just began a blog this past week. And it was great. The first article he wrote was great. And the opportunity now with YouTube and, again, with the internet, you can express yourself right here and right now. There's absolutely no reason that you can't, if that's what you want to do. We saw with the Arab Spring, a lot of that happened because messages were getting out through Twitter and Facebook from countries that normally are oppressed. And that combined energy is what helped set those people free in 3 or 4 different countries. In fact, it's still going on right here and right now. Things are changing. Things are changing, and for the better. But we're going through some labor pains, I really think. I think all of this anxiety and anxiousness that really the entire globe is going through is birthing a higher consciousness. We're coming up on 2012, and at least folks in the metaphysical sciences, like the people in this room, believe that all this labor is, when we get through this, we are going to be better off, and we're going to be, because you can't pull the wool over people's eyes anymore. They can't get away with it. And who are they? Some of those Middle Eastern leaders that are no longer with us. And some of it is governments, and some of it is corporations, and some of it may be people that we know in our workplace, or you just can't quite get away with what you used to be able to get away with. When what you are meant for means something to you, you will have found your purpose. Find the meaning. Find the meaning. Be open to it, and it'll come. Much has been written about purpose. What is your purpose at the end of the day or life? Our bank account is not the measure of our lives. It is the fulfillment of purpose and promise. In other words, it is up to you what you do. However, I believe you are a divine child of promise, and your purpose is to fulfill your divine promise. And it is that nagging feeling that pokes you in the gut, your divinity seeking expression. So I say, instead of asking what's in it for me, which is kind of the way we normally are, how about you ask the question, what's in me for it? Sandy, what do you want to do? Are you doing everything you want to do, or you want to do some more things or some different things? Grow the church bigger. Speak on TV. Television commercials. As like an actress, holding up the bottle of whatever and saying, buy this. This is good stuff. I never knew that about you. Betty, what is it that maybe you haven't done yet that you've kind of thought about doing, and maybe you feel like you're getting closer to actually seeing it happen? Get a couple of laws changed and a companion. Well, getting the laws changed would be being an activist and combining your energy with the energies of others who also would like to see those laws changed. That can be done. We're seeing it right now everywhere. We can do that. It works. It's the law of attraction. You are starring in the movie of your life. Why not give yourself the best lines? As we explored in one of the earlier chapters, which was in the first part, of the book called Your 5-Star Life. You are the director of your life. Are you creating a love story or a horror movie? Is it a film people will want to see again or one they will walk out on? When you allow your inner divinity to unfold, it will direct you in the light direction. I was playing around with this epigram today on Twitter. I actually changed it. This is the way I originally wrote it. If you can compose yourself, you can write your life. WRITE. But along the same lines, if you can compose yourself, you can write your life. RIGHT. The above epigram, of course, is a double entendre. Your emotions play a significant role in how your life unfolds. Your emotions and feelings are vibrating at frequencies that attract like feelings and emotions, and they repel those that don't match. If you are emotionally erratic, you are likely to repel composed people, and for the most part, composed people are the ones making most of the important decisions, or at least they seem to be. They may not be the smartest people, but they are usually composed. And the last thing any organization can afford is an erratic and overly emotional member. So I kind of write some of this in the book I wrote as information for my son to have. He can be kind of emotional, and I can be kind of emotional. And I wanted to state for him and for anyone who has issues with emotions to understand that emotions are good, but you can let them get the better of you. I had fulfilled my original radio goals and dreams by age 28. I did what I wanted to do by the time I was 28. Now, I have since had to hit the reset button several times over the last 22 years. You are limited only by your imagination. And by the way, there is nothing wrong with borrowing another's imagination as well. That's kind of what we're doing here today. Create a mastermind group. Has anyone here been in a mastermind group? I know Leah is in one right now. Sandy? Mastermind. You know, it's really not all that different from some of the classes that we take, but it is kind of interesting how often people gather together to complain. And imagine if you took all that energy and opportunity to gather together. What's the opposite of complain? I'm not sure what the opposite of complain is. The antonym. Proclaim. If you got together in a group of people, with a group of people to proclaim, it's just turning it all the way around, isn't it? Proclaim that you are God's best idea. Proclaim your dreams and claim them and make it happen. I really, the mastermind group that I had with a few friends here locally helped me get through some bumps. Sometimes when I wasn't feeling all that great about things, they really kind of kept things together. And you have the support, and I would imagine because we don't always get that. Sometimes our spouses aren't necessarily the most. Sometimes they're not as supportive as we'd like for them to be. And the quickest way to have somebody dash your dreams is to ask them what they think of them. So if you have an inkling that somebody is not going to be supportive and is going to try to dash your dreams, don't ask them. I mean, seriously. They are not, you do not need permission from anybody to pursue your dream. It really kind of comes down to this. And one of my epigrams I want to share with you now is a compromising consciousness consciously compromises your promise. I just heard what I'm about to share with you yesterday. The guy who has written the autobiography of Steve Jobs says that, and I guess it's in the book, that Steve Jobs basically said the following: there is no longer going to be the traditional Democrat or Republican Party. That the world is going to operate either constructively or destructively. And it doesn't matter which party you're in. Some members of those political parties are constructive, and some of them are destructive. The people who are going to get elected, I promise you, are going to be the ones who are going to be proposed to be constructive. It goes back to what Mother Teresa said about, don't invite me to an anti-war rally, but I'll come to your peace rally. Either we're going to be constructive, which is what we're doing here, or destructive. Construct your life or destruct it. That's how things are going to go from now on, and I really believe it. Regardless of whether your plans have materialized as you thought you imagined them, the most important idea is that you are God's plan. Did you understand what I just suggested? You are God's plan. When operating from divinity, you create divinely. Once you get this, there is no going back to an undivine life. You'll be like a locomotive. You still might make some mistakes, but you will be consciously aware of them. You will no longer be satisfied with mediocrity in whatever form it is offered. Once your inner divinity starts to express through you, you will acquire divine tastes. You will want the best for you and your family. You will want to create a service or product worthy of your divinity. I write in the book, in this particular chapter, about an artist named Billy Mann. You probably don't know who Billy Mann is unless you read the book. Billy Mann was supposed to be the next big thing in 1995. He had the voice of a Kenny Loggins, a Paul Simon, a Van Morrison, a Stevie Wonder. He wrote great songs. But he kind of came along at a time when that singer-songwriter was not the happening thing. It was grunge rock and Pearl Jam and Nirvana and rap music. So his first album got great reviews, but it didn't do that well. And right before the album came out, his wife died of cancer. She was 30 years old. Now, can you imagine you're about to embark on a dream of being a major label recording artist and your wife dies? That would mess you up. But he stayed with his dream and he recorded a second album. And again, it was reviewed very, very well. But the record company disappeared. It was the A&M record label, the label of the Carpenters and Styx and Cat Stevens. They were bought by another company. So A&M disappeared. So all the promotional support that he was supposed to get for this second album, which was awesome, it was called Earthbound, it didn't happen. So here's a guy who was supposed to be the next big thing. First album comes out, his wife passes away. Second album comes out, his label disappears. That would make a lot of people decide, well, I'm just not going to do this anymore. What he did instead was he concentrated on writing songs, and Celine Dion recorded two of his songs on one of her albums, the album that had My Heart Will Go On, which sold 11 million copies. So he made a lot of money being a songwriter. He has since written and produced songs and recordings that have sold over 85 million copies. He's a very rich man. Even though the dream he had didn't unfold exactly the way he thought it was at that particular time. He's now a label executive with EMI or RCA. And he is signing acts and he is helping other people and giving them the support that maybe he didn't get. And by the way, he wrote a screenplay about what happened. And they made a movie out of it. And it hasn't been released here in America yet. It's called A Little Bit of Heaven with Kate Hudson. And they changed it from being a songwriter to being a doctor. So they really took a lot of liberty with the story. But when you get a chance to see A Little Bit of Heaven, the movie originally was called Earthbound, which was the title of his album, Earthbound. There is no way to know how much the world can change for the better when you express your divinity and fulfill your promise. In other words, he didn't stop. He didn't let the passing of his wife stop him. He didn't let the crashing of his label stop his expressions. The world gets better one soul at a time. A flu virus can be contagious, so why not a quality of God as well? We've seen this historically through the messages and works of Jesus, Gandhi, Mother Teresa, and others. Why not you? Why not us? It can when you accept your divinity and live the undeniable life. Next up is divine aspirations. An overwhelming desire suggests that it is within your reach. Reach within. You have as many chances as you are willing to take. And again, I wrote so many of these ideas and thoughts as a way to create some self-talk. These were my own affirmations. These are the things that I tell myself. I basically wrote the book I wanted to read. We are often told tales of missed opportunities and boats that have sailed as if they are equal to the number of thumbs we have. Everyone have 2 thumbs? Even the magic genie offers you 3 wishes. For a person living a limited life of hopes and wishes, hoping to be accepted here, wishing they could go there, the only opportunities they miss are the ones they fail to meet. You are the one who decides to answer opportunity. Opportunity knocks on the open door. Meaning the doors are open. We just got to walk in. When I die, I imagine people will talk mostly about what I did after the age of 50. I was in radio for 30 years. Proud of most of the things I did. But I have a feeling that people will remember me for this book and books to come. Motivational talks. The ministry that I am not only doing now, but taking the courses that will lead to, quote unquote, an official ministry. But we're all ministers. Isn't that what Terry Cole Whitaker told us? We're all seekers and we're all ministers. We all have the opportunity to be ministers. I took this chance. Take a chance and then create another. The most productive and lucrative years of the average American are of those when they're in their 50s. That's when you make the most money. If you, like me, are in and around that age or older, please don't let that dissuade you from doing whatever it is you really want to do. Great possibilities begin with great responsibilities. This is my idea. I believe it's so. Opportunity wastes not its time on the irresponsible. For those who do not accept responsibility squander all opportunity. You don't get to try and then blame. And there's no need to blame if things don't go perfectly. You don't fail, you learn. I've learned a lot. I have failed a lot. And the only permanent failure is when you don't learn from your mistakes. And you can start right where you are. The people who receive the most responsibility are the ones who usually accept the most responsibility. There are naysayers who will try to attach to you the chains they have forged for themselves. Stay free. Have you ever had anyone they get just close enough to you that they kind of put that chain around you because they're not so sure they want to see you succeed? Opportunity requires application. Opportunity requires application. 2 people see the same opportunity. One applies and the other ponders. One acquires and the other wonders. We have all had the experience of seeing a TV commercial and saying, hey, I thought of that. That Snuggie thing? Are you kidding? I was doing that when I was a kid. I never wore pajamas. I always walked around with a big blanket around me. It's a Snuggie, right? The Dougie Snuggie. I missed that opportunity. Yes, you thought of it, but did you do anything with that thought? A fleeting thought must be caught as it flies by the mind. Thoughts whistle by in an effort to gain our attention and are grasped only by those who are paying attention. That's where consciousness comes in. I mean, we talk about consciousness in metaphysical ways, mostly. But, it really is an awareness, too. If you're really aware all the time when somebody says something, it's something from the universe sometimes. Sometimes it's like, have you ever been in a situation where somebody says something and you go, oh, right. That reminds me of something that you kind of thought about and you kind of put away? One of my muses is Debbie Ferre. She has helped lead me towards so many things. Twitter, Hay House. So when Debbie speaks, I listen, because she always has something to say that leads me right where I need to be. Great inspirations begin with great aspirations. Great inspirations begin with great aspirations. The person who aspires to make toast will not receive the inspiration to create a multi-million-dollar bakery. If you don't combine inspiration and aspiration, you just kind of sit and wonder what could have been. I don't want you to do that. The origin of aspire in the Latin is the following. I love the way this is described in the dictionary. It means to breathe upon or to pant after. What makes you pant? I mean, literally. Like a dog. This book made me pant. The idea of it. It's like, wow, I can write a book. And it might change the world. Wouldn't that be great? And then I stayed on it. I didn't go, oh, but no. Who am I to do that? I didn't listen to that voice or any voices of ghosts from the past. And this would be an exercise to do, not necessarily here now, but when you get home or in the next few days. Make a list of your aspirations. This is not an index of wants or needs. Opportunity doesn't care to meet your needs, and I mean that. We're not meeting needs here. You don't change the world by meeting a need necessarily. Opportunity is only interested in your ability to make the most of it. Go ahead and write down your aspirations, dreams, goals, ideas. Find photos of the things you want to acquire and or accomplish. After I had written about 20,000 words of the book, I printed the pages and put them in a binder and carried them around. Holding that binder in my hands made the book more real. Putting positive emotion and energy behind your mental picture is important. Your thoughts think. Your thoughts think. They are waves that generate waves that generate waves until they become form or there is no longer any energy behind them. Set a date for what you contemplate. This is one of my favorite epigrams that I've ever written. Your dream deserves an aspiration date. Not an expiration date, an aspiration date. It might be that your aspiration is simply to be a better person, a better spouse, a better servant to mankind, led you to this center, to this seminar. I believe that once you express a desire to aspire, what was once concealed is revealed. Resources, people, finances, ideas, and more raise and wave their hand, announcing their presence because they know you have beckoned and you are ready to rock. Are you ready to rock and get down with your bad selves? How many, whether it's to create a larger church or simply be happy, are you ready? Yep. Be bold. Be nothing like anyone, and everyone will want to be like you. It was like Elton John was unlike anybody. Lady Gaga right now, unlike anybody. Michael Jackson, unlike anybody. Elvis was unlike anyone. Frank Sinatra was unlike anyone. And everybody wanted to be like them. There are, 1,000 other examples, millions of other examples. This is really important. This is powerful. Everyone has what it takes because what it takes is what everyone has. Everyone has what it takes because what it takes is what everyone has. Now, these are original strings of words that came to me once I told the universe that I was willing and ready to be used to express God and love and motivate people to believe in themselves and to accept their inherent divinity. It wouldn't have happened otherwise. I mean, I would have been writing something, but it would have been Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water, But once I said, this is what I wanted to do, God said, okay, and sent me some words and some ideas to put together. And you have what I have. You've got what it takes. It's inherent. How you express this divinity will be unique to you as it benefits us, because life is a gift exchange. Brad Paisley. How many people here know who Brad Paisley is? Brad Paisley is, if not the biggest country star of today, he's certainly in the top 5. In 1999, I was working for a radio station in Wheeling, West Virginia, which is where Brad is from, near there. For years, Brad was the young kid with the guitar who played everywhere. He played at the carnivals and the fairs, and he was accomplished enough that he eventually was allowed to open up for some of the big country music stars that were playing the Capitol Music Hall, which is where my radio station was. But this weird thing happened. It's again, this is interesting. That he was good enough to be the opening act for some of these superstars, and he was paid to do that. But he went to Nashville, and he went to this school where that you can study music. And he came back with a recording contract. And he wanted to have the album release party at the Capitol Music Hall ballroom. And that was announced one particular week at our department head meeting. Because that department head meeting, we talked about radio and we talked about the theater too. And that was brought up, and there was one person in particular who laughed. And a few others laughed with her. And it was very clear she was suggesting what a joke this was, that he was on a major record label. She thought enough of him for him to, to be an opening act, but she did not see him as a star. How many people have not seen the true star you are and have not been as supportive as they should have been? I was appalled by what I saw there. And he ended up having the release party there. And in the book, I don't reveal who we're talking about to the very end of the story. But that first album, which was called Who Needs Picture, won him the best new male vocalist of the year. He has sold millions of records. He's had 15 number one songs. He has won the Country Music Association Entertainer of the Year at least once. And he is on his way to the Country Music Hall of Fame. But the people in his hometown, some of the people in his hometown laughed at the thought of it. I share that story. If anyone ever laughs at you, don't pay him any mind. Don't pay him any mind. You just go about fulfilling your dream. He saw Kimberly Williams, the actress, in those Father of the Bride movies. And he said to himself, I'm going to marry this girl. When he became a recording artist, there was one particular video where he needed a girl, and he hired her to be in the video. And they fell in love. That's somebody who understands the power of positive thinking and fulfilling. He gave his dream an aspiration date. Yeah, he's a superstar. But he believed he was a superstar, even if other people didn't. Now, here's a follow-up to that story that is important. Brad Paisley would be the first to tell you that he didn't always sing the right notes, which may have been the reason for some of the locals' lack of faith. But a sour note is just a reminder to sweeten the tune, not to doubt the song. I don't believe in doubt. It is a liar. Give your dream an aspiration date. Intentions. Wayne Dyer wrote a book called, I think it was all about the power of intention. I would rather set sail upon the uncharted seas of possibility than row across the pond of probability. It's one of my favorite epigrams. Great intentions begin with great comprehensions. We all have intentions. It's the comprehensions that trip us up. Those born into wealthy families can comprehend what wealth is, what it looks like, what it feels like, even what it smells like. No wonder we have the term old money. A person who knows abundance can easily see themselves remaining abundant. The reverse is true as well. If you know poor, poor knows you. This is why it is imperative that you get to know some wealth, if being wealthy is your intention. Get to know the wealth and abundance that flows from the divinity that is within all of us. God's good is everywhere. We need to open our eyes and our hearts. Everything good you see started as a divine idea before it became a reality. Appearances are the major hang-ups to progress. For all the talk about people living in the past and worrying about the future, the problem of only seeing what is instead of imagining what could be can be just as paralyzing. Without a vision, we are hunting and pecking our way through life. And again, using the weight analogy, I mean, there are times people just go, those people that are hoarders that at some point they probably just go, instead of cleaning it up, it's like, I just might as well add more on. I mean, it really is kind of twisted that way. The drunk, the alcoholic can get to the point where they feel like they're at the point of no return, so they actually drink more. That is hell. That is hell. Without clear intentions, you will receive mixed signals, like trying to listen to several radio stations all at once. Back in the days when we used to listen to AM radio a lot, you would hear 3 or 4 stations coming in at one time, a lot of static. Do you have clear intentions? If answering a simple question like, what do you want, gives you chills instead of thrills, then you are going to have a problem attracting and manifesting your goals and intentions because you are not clear. The trivial matters of life are clinging to the important matters. While you're attending to the trivial, you neglect the consequential. I listen to a lot of Hay House radio, and I hear the people calling in to those shows, and it's almost always the same deal. It's always the same problem or a variation. They're just not clear of what they want to do. And if they are clear about what they want to do, they're scared of it. Now, there is a way to attend to all things that is productive and divine, and I really recommend this. It is to simply look at everything as sacred. It's a powerful way of living. If the mundane things in life that must be done are frowned upon as meaningless and time wasting, then that will be the vibration you are in while doing them. Remaining in a higher vibration of gratitude is essential to realizing objectives. So I go about doing everything I do. I don't think of it as trivial. I think of it, all of it as sacred. Getting upset over minor annoyances lowers your vibration and detracts from life's peace and joy and slows the manifesting process. Proverbs 17:22 reads, "A cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones." How many of our hearts become as brittle as bones because of a lack of gratitude? How are we doing in the gratitude department? Good? Better now?
Oh, yeah. Every day.
That was one of my real issues.
It's amazing.
You can get so focused on what isn't, you miss all that is. How many of our hearts become as brittle as bones because of a lack of gratitude? The Bible suggests that the heart withers before the body. Life is sacred. Work and play with reverence for life, and life responds in kind. You externalize what you internalize. Try this exercise. I do this all the time. I was talking to myself as a child. You know, they say it's one thing to talk to yourself. It's another if you answer. I totally the opposite. It was said that Napoleon Hill would, in his mind, talk to all the great masters. He would have conversations with Jesus and with Edison. Now, some of the people he actually did know, but some of them were dead. And he would talk to some of the greats who were no longer with us. He would just have discussions in his head with these people. Pretend you are an interviewer on radio or television, and you are interviewing the richer, more abundant, and happy you. Let the fully realized and sacred you tell all about how you became so successful and happy. You will be surprised just how clear and direct this already successful and sacred you is in telling your story. If I've heard it once, I've heard it 1,000 times. So many of the people that ended up on the Oprah show in their books would say, I always saw myself on the Oprah show. I imagined the conversation. And then when it finally happened, I wasn't surprised because I had rehearsed it in my mind. Has anyone done that? Do you ever talk to yourself and answer that you're really getting in touch with that divine, that person in you who isn't afraid? Because we always talk about the inner child, that the child that's afraid inside. But inside there is someone who is not afraid, and that is the God part of you. And that entity will give you the answers that you need to know and hear. You become the story you tell yourself. Tell yourself a beautiful story. You are a beautiful story. You are God's best idea. What's coming out is already within. If your intentions as well as comprehensions are fully focused and the picture clearly imagined in mind, you are well on your way. And that way is happiness. I know we've talked a lot about ideas and you know, this book is it's part about accepting who you inherently are, and it's part about the law of attraction. But if all you do is be the love that you are and you're happy with that and you can serve in any way and you get up every day looking so forward to do that, that's what we're going after. And then the money comes from that. Or the abundance does, the riches does. And it may be not in the form of dollars and cents. It may be in some other form. As people move through life, they choose to get better or be bitter. You don't want to be the bitter person nearing the end of life wondering if you could have. Of course you could have. We all can. The thing that keeps people from following through on intentions is they fear they will fail. In some cases, fear they will succeed. Who cares about the failing part anyway? I wrote the very best book I could, having never written one before. I know that my son will enjoy it, which he does. And he'll have it forevermore, long after I'm gone, probably. I know that this is my way of expressing God's divinity within me. Any success beyond this realization is a bonus. I hope the bonus is big, but it's a bonus. Just writing the book was an exercise in success. I want to make that really clear. That was a successful enterprise. Just doing it. This book is not about encouraging you to spend more time wishing and hoping. I'm here to tell you that you are inherently divine. And that never changes. You're worthy of all that you can conceive, but your conception must be followed by intention and action in order for the blueprint to take form. The ways and means are as unlimited as God intend and begin. Whatever good you intend, know that the ways and means will be revealed once the clear intention is expressed. I have people calling me every day now. People emailing me, hey, we want to interview you on this show. Would you like to be interviewed on that show? 2 weeks ago, I was trying to find people who would talk to me. Now I have people I don't know asking to talk to me. It turned around in 2 weeks because I'd been planting the seeds for weeks and months. It turns just like that. Whatever good you intend, know that the ways and means will be revealed once the clear intention is expressed. That means taking steps toward the ultimate finish line. Now, I have 2 additional thoughts about the ultimate finish line. There isn't one. You probably will find that the journey and the process toward the goal will be what you cherish most, the journey. Also, if you accept the idea of eternity and infinity, finish lines are really going to be launching points to new and greater adventures and enlightenment. In other words, things have never been better, but they can be. Don't look at what is now as bad. Bad as a poor jumping off point. Things just are. You need to appreciate where you are and the power that went into creating that. You'll need that same appreciation and power to intend something new if something new is what you want. It's possible. This chapter began with one of the last epigrams I wrote for the book, which was the one I opened up the chapter with. I would rather set sail upon the uncharted seas of possibility than row across a pond of probability. Now, I was inspired to write this while reading a book by author Raymond Charles Barker, who is a New Thought author. The book is called You Are Invisible. In chapter 8, he writes about possibility and probability. There is a huge difference between the two. Ironically, we inadvertently encourage our children to pursue the probable instead of the possible. Now, it seems that the path of least resistance is the pursuit of the probable. It seems more probable that one will land the $50,000 a year job instead of the $100,000 a year job. That is the conventional thinking. You believe you are overqualified for the lower paying position and underqualified for the higher paying position, so you apply for the probable instead of the possible. Now, what is missed in this equation, however, is that since most people think this way, guess what happens? The lower paying job receives the highest number of applications. The odds, believe it or not, are in your favor if you go for the biggest prize, which is the possible. The biggest prize, whether it is a job or some great new scientific discovery, isn't found on the other side of the easy-to-cross pond. It awaits the bold, the adventurer, the person who believes they are great enough to sail the uncharted seas of possibility to receive the treasure sought. The person who has recognized and accepted their inner divinity, their inner beauty, is just this kind of being. The one who believes all things are possible with God instead of the one who settles for the mediocrity of probability. As Raymond Charles Barker suggests, possibility is of the spirit. Probability is of the human mind. Your intentions become your reality when you express and accept your divinity and live the undeniable life. How many adventurers do we have here? An adventurer. We're going to sail the seas of possibility. Life is a correspondence course where success is determined by your correspondence with God. You can visit me online at youaregodsbestidea.com, where there are lots of free and informative things, including podcasts of some of the essays that I've written on my blog. I am available as a life coach and speaker, and you can reach me through the website. And again, we'll be back next Thursday at 6:30 here at the Center for Spiritual Living in Kennewick. We'll see you then. God bless us, everyone.